2 people died. Many of the details remain hazy. Big media organizations have done their best to downplay and ignore the violence in Kenosha and around the country. But there were a few reporters on the scene last night. One of them, Richie McGinnis of the Daily Caller, was standing nearby when a man was shot in the head. McGinnis ripped off his T-shirt and used it to try and staunch the man's bleeding. Here's the scene.
Get a light on it! Get a light! Get me a light!
Put pressure on it! Put pressure on it!
Where, dude? Where? Where's the hole?
Wait, where are you here? Where? Here in his head, in his head! Come on! Put pressure, put pressure, put pressure! Hey, keep your eyes open, keep your eyes open.
Sorry for the painful video, but it's real. That man later died. At one point, the 17-year-old, who has now been charged, tried to run from the mob. He tripped and fell in the middle of the street. A man ran up and smashed him in the head with a skateboard. The 17-year-old then fired his gun. So what does that amount to? We're unsure. A court will decide whether what you just saw qualifies as self-defense. As of tonight, we really don't have more details. We do know why it all happened, though. Kenosha has devolved into anarchy because the authorities in charge of the city abandoned it. People in charge, from the governor of Wisconsin on down, refused to enforce the law. They stood back and they watched Kenosha burn. So are we really surprised that looting and arson accelerated to murder? How shocked are we that 17-year-olds with rifles decided they had to maintain order when no one else would? Everyone could see what was happening in Kenosha. It was getting crazier by the hour. Watch this scene from last night.
Kill the police! Kill them back! Kill them back for taking us! Kill the police for taking us! Death to America!
Kill the police, death to America. That's not Iran, it's Wisconsin. It could have been a dozen other places in this country. The violence has been building unabated for 3 months now. Every day, the mob becomes more radical. By some accounts, 30 Americans have died so far in these riots. Democrats have openly encouraged them. Republican leaders have been too fearful to stop them. Some have applauded it all. 5 days into the first Minneapolis riots in May, as the city burned live on camera before everyone, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley took to Twitter to support the rioters. Quote, "It's important to understand that the death of George Floyd was personal and painful for many," Haley wrote. "In order to heal, it needs to be personal and painful for everyone." Well, Nikki Haley's wish came true. The riots have been personal and painful for this country, but not for Nikki Haley. She appears to be thriving. On Monday, Haley spoke in a featured spot at the Republican National Convention, and the media hailed her as the future of conservatism. Of course they did. They hate the Republican Party. A party that tolerates rioting has no future in a democracy. Human beings crave order. It's a prerequisite for life. They fear uncertainty above all. People will trade virtually anything for relief from chaos. That's a fact of human nature. It's always true. And politicians who understand that win. Rudy Giuliani got elected twice in an overwhelmingly Democratic city because he knew that underneath it all, everyone hates lawlessness. Everyone. Richard Nixon knew that too. Nixon was not a charming man. No one ever longed to have a beer with him. Yet Nixon managed to win what is to this day the single biggest blowout in American history, the 1972 elections. How did he do that? It was simple. Richard Nixon was for order. His opponent was for chaos. It wasn't hard. It's not hard now. Yet that lesson seems lost on this generation of leaders. Our cities are burning because the people in charge have allowed them to burn. Tonight, the White House is sending hundreds of additional National Guardsmen and military policemen to Kenosha, and that is a very good thing. But let's be honest, the Justice Department could have stopped all of this months ago. If federal prosecutors had treated the organizers of BLM and Antifa the way they treated Roger Stone, our cities wouldn't look like Kosovo tonight. But they didn't do that. Instead, they enforced standards selectively in direct violation of our most sacred American principle, which is equal protection under the law. They ignored that. Across the country, prosecutors responded to politically disfavored crimes with maximum aggression, and they ignored the rest. Just this Sunday, at a Catholic cathedral in Philadelphia, a woman was brutally assaulted in the aisle in the middle of a service. The attack was live streamed to the entire congregation at home in real time. There was no question what happened. It was on videotape. And yet the authorities in Philadelphia concluded it was not a big deal, so they're not pressing charges. Here's the crime they've decided to ignore. It's awful. But think bigger for a moment. What is the effect on the country, on the rest of us, when authorities allow assaults like the one you just saw, open threats and harassment and violence to go unpunished? What does that cause? Well, it increases tribalism, for one thing. It makes us hate each other, and that's why they're doing it. Our leaders want us to believe that this is all a racial conflict. They're always telling us it is, but they're lying. It is not a racial conflict. At its deepest level, the chaos they have unleashed has very little to do with race. Most Americans are not bigots. Unlike CNN, they are not fixated on skin color. They don't really care, most of them. What you're watching is more sinister than that. What you're watching is an effort by the academic left, funded by big business, to crush the last remaining resistance to their control of the country. And that resistance is an independent American middle class. That's who they really hate. This is not a race war. This is a class war. Remember that. Richie McGinnis found himself in the middle of all of it last night in Kenosha. He runs the video operation over at the Daily Caller. In the video we played a moment ago, you saw him trying to save that man's life with his T-shirt, unsuccessfully, sadly. Richie McGinnis joins us tonight. Richie, what did you see? First to the video that we played, which was just remarkable. What were the immediate circumstances around that?
Well, Tucker, we were out all night, and I initially encountered the alleged shooter at a business that had been burned the night previously, and we actually saw some of those the owners of the business trying to put the fires out themselves. And the next night, I encountered the alleged shooter at that business, and I actually asked him a few questions on camera. And later that evening, I saw the same individual in the street, drawing a lot of attention due to the fact that he had what I thought was an AR-15 strung over his shoulder. And so a lot of people were shouting at him, at which point I basically, saw him start to run and heard the shots, and obviously you saw the rest on video.
From the video, it's not clear that there are any police around. There's a big mob, people have guns, shots are going off. Where were the cops?
Well, I'm in Kenosha with Shelby Talcott and Jorge Ventura, two of my colleagues, and we've been asking people all around town, business owners who've had their places looted, where were the police? And they said, it took 2 hours, it took an hour, it took the fire department 3 hours. So definitely they're there, but they're obviously not responding in any quick fashion. So the 17-year-old who I interviewed earlier in the night, he actually mentioned that he was there to maintain peace in the absence of police.
In one video that we played, he is being chased down the street. He's hit in the head with a skateboard. Why was that group of people chasing him? Do you know?
Well, I believe that the video that you're referring to took place after the initial shooting. So I think that at that point, they were basically looking for whoever had a weapon on them. And obviously, the weapon that he had was very noticeable. So I think that the video that you're referring to actually took place afterwards. But what I can say is prior to the first shooting that I witnessed, I did see a number of individuals pursuing the 17-year-old alleged shooter. And actually, the individual who was shot, I did see him advance on him very closely, and you can actually see that in the video, although it's a bit far away. And I was actually maybe 6 or 7 feet behind them, so I saw it up close.
It's just hard to believe this is America. We can't put up with this. Richie McGinnis, I'm glad you're okay. Thank you for that report. I appreciate it. I want to bring you a Fox News alert. Hurricane Laura is on its way. It could be catastrophic landfall tonight on the Texas and Louisiana coasts. For details, we go, as we always do, to our chief meteorologist, Rick Reichmuth, who's been tracking it. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Tucker. Yeah, probably the strongest storm that will ever hit southwestern Louisiana, which is saying a lot. This is a storm. It continues to strengthen. In fact, just a few minutes ago, found winds have increased to 150 miles an hour, and the pressure continues to drop. You don't want to see that when you're just probably around 4 to 6 hours away from landfall. A strengthening storm is a much more deadly storm. It is getting very close to the coastline. We already have a lot of flooding going on, but take a look at these numbers. Storm surge numbers. This is going to be the immediate most deadly impact. 15 to 20 feet around the Cameron area and maybe just towards the east. It's wherever the storm comes ashore, and anywhere to the east of that is where the worst of it will be. But now expecting up to 20 foot of storm surge. Imagine 20 feet above the ground and then waves crashing on top of that. That's why they're saying absolutely nothing will be able to survive along the coast if anybody is not out of there. Want to take a look at the future radar here? This is what the model.
Shocking. Rick Reichmuth, thanks. We'll be, I know, talking to you again soon. Thank you. Some disturbing new information tonight about a man who might soon be the top prosecutor in the city of Los Angeles. That's next. Plus, extensive coverage, full coverage of the Republican National Convention's Night 3. The big speakers are moving toward the stage, including the Vice President of the United States. We'll be on it.
Gangs and narcotics, robbery, homicide. Like it's the end of days.
People are in danger. We're gonna do this thing together.
No more games. This ends now. Let's go.
You know, you could get yourself killed. You do what you gotta do.
He blew up the port of L.A.
One boat in the van.
LA's Finest premieres September 21st on Fox.
No matter what happens, I got you. We're gonna take him down the right way. We're like an official duo. Like Starsky and Hutch.
Stick together and we're gonna get it done.
I founded the largest tech company in the world. We were developing machine intelligence, kind that thinks like an actual person. It was supposed to stay shuttered.
I'm your friend, right?
There's an AI loose in the world.
Something's wrong.
If it can't get to you physically, it'll get to you emotionally. We need to find this thing and kill it.
Your father.
He had 3 children outside this marriage.
They're trying to erase us.
You're really playing with fire.
I haven't even lit the match.
Filthy Rich, September 21st on Fox.
In your legs and feet, TheraWorks Relief can help. With daily application, this fast-acting foam is clinically proven to prevent muscle cramps before they start.
Get TheraWorks Relief today. Available in stores everywhere.
Time for new reading glasses? Go to readers.com. Choose from hundreds of styles and colors for under $20. And now, enter this exclusive TV coupon code at checkout to save up to 40%. That's readers.com.
Welcome. Today's discussion will be around sliced meat.
Moms want healthy and affordable.
Land of Frost Premium.
No added hormones either.
It's the only protein I've really melted with.
Land of Frost Premium. Fresh look, same great taste. Sean's live with RNC Reaction. As the GOP energizes their base, Karl Rove and Mike Huckabee go inside the key moments as they happen. Tonight on Hannity.
A Biden-Kamala presidency would be the most radical presidency in history, and President Trump needs our support now. Joe Biden has adopted the policies of the radical left, including open borders, banning guns through executive order, the Green New Deal, and eliminating private health care. Joe Biden refuses to leave his basement and demonstrates he is incapable of performing the duties of the presidency. The radical left will be running our country if Joe Biden is elected president. Ronald Reagan's winning campaign manager is now leading the charge for Great America PAC to rally millions of Americans in support of President Trump. We need every American that wants the re-election of President Trump to call 800-736-6177 now and press 1 to pledge your support. We cannot take a chance on a Biden presidency. Please pick up the phone and call 800-736-6177 to support the re-election of President Trump. Call 800-736-6177 now. Paid for by Great America PAC, which is responsible for the content of this message.
Night 3 of the RNC kicks off in about 12 minutes from now. Don't change the channel. We are on it. But first, we want to bring you some pretty disturbing news out of California. It involves a man who many blame for skyrocketing crime in the city of San Francisco. That man is now running for district attorney in Los Angeles. He's getting support from the state's governor, Gavin Newsom. For details in this story, which is worth knowing, Fox Los Angeles reporter Bill Malugin is on the case. Bill, good to see you.
Hey, Tucker, thanks for having me. We are talking about LA DA candidate George Gascon. He is the ultimate progressive candidate for this race here in LA, but specifically we're talking about some very controversial tweets members of his public policy committee have posted in the past. And these are people that he says are an all-star committee, a grouping of brilliant minds. So we found some of these tweets and we want to show some of them to you. Let's start with Elisa Blair. This was posted on May 29th. Again, one of his policy committee members. It says, quote, "Burn that expletive down. We must destroy in order to rebuild." That comment coming during the George Floyd riots. Another comment from another member, Tiffany Blacknell. This was tweeted on June 5th in response to a video of LAPD dealing with protesters in LA's Fairfax district. She says, quote, "Look at these barbarians. LAPD is an occupying army. Hashtag defund police." Then she has another tweet in August of 2019 where she calls for the abolishment of prisons. Take a look. She says, quote, "Prison is obsolete. We need to reimagine America without it." She then goes on to quote Angela Davis, who is a lifelong communist activist. I reached out to both of these women. Neither of them got back to me to give me a statement, though one of them did make their Twitter profile private. Also reached out to George Gascon's campaign multiple times. They tell me their official comment on this is no comment at all. Tucker?
Amazing. Bill Malugin, Los Angeles for us. Thank you so much. We need to burn it down in order to rebuild it. Why is it the people who say that are always the ones who've never built anything and aren't capable of it because they have no skills? Tells you a lot. Well, you never hear anyone say it out loud. You're not allowed to say it out loud. But as a factual matter, we still don't know exactly how George Floyd died back on Memorial Day. The people burning your city down claim they do know. Floyd's death is the pretext for what they're doing, but that's a lie. Yesterday, exactly 3 months after Floyd's death, authorities in Minnesota finally released memos from the initial autopsy. They've been hiding these all summer. These assessments were made on June 1st by the chief county medical examiner, a pathologist called Andrew Baker. Dr. Baker concluded that George Floyd had so much methamphetamine and fentanyl in his system that if he had been found in his home, his death would have been ruled an open and shut overdose. Floyd's blood contained, quote, "a fatal level of fentanyl under normal circumstances," end quote. The narcotics in his system caused Floyd's lungs to swell to 2 or 3 times their normal weight. George Floyd was dying from oxygen deprivation before the police even arrived. That's the conclusion of the pathologist. And that might explain why body camera footage from that day shows George Floyd shouting, "I can't breathe," as he sits in a police car with no one touching him. That's the science. The question is, why didn't we know this before, months ago, before we allowed BLM and Antifa to destroy our country in George Floyd's name? Well, we probably didn't know that for the same reason that news organizations are still ignoring the medical examiner's report, these champions of science, even now that it's been released. They don't care about the facts of the case. They don't care about George Floyd. What they care about is controlling you. You are being manipulated, though you've probably already figured that out by now. The third night of the Republican National Convention kicks off just minutes from now, and we'll be on it next.
There's an AI loose in the world.
Something's wrong.
If it can't get to you physically, it'll get to you emotionally. We need to find this thing and kill it. I founded the largest tech company in the world. We were developing machine intelligence, kind that thinks like an actual person. It was supposed to stay shuttered.
I'm your friend, right?
There's an AI loose in the world.
Something's wrong.
If it can't get to you physically, it'll get to you emotionally. We need to find this thing and kill it.
1 month ago,
I lost my husband.
he had 3 children outside this marriage.
Your father.
Not a faithful man.
Well, who the hell are these people?
I've decided to give each of you $1 million.
You're valued at $2.2 billion.
You flew as coach? We do this. It changes everything.
Mama, you have lost your damn mind.
Haven't we had enough fighting for one day?
Filthy Rich, September 21st on Fox.
Hi guys, I am so excited. I was lucky enough to do a second collection with Fabletics. These are the best leggings in the entire world. I'm just gonna say it right now. The waist looks so tiny, like they look so small, but they're so stretchy and so nice, and they just sculpt you. Like literally, the word sculpt knit is how to describe them because they sculpt you and make your body look so flattering and amazing. It's the best legging ever.
Get your first 2 pairs of leggings for $24. Only Fabletics.com.
When we started our company, we simply wanted better sheets. But along the way, we've realized that softer, safer, organic cotton does so much more for the planet and for humanity. It helps your home become a force for good, because home is more than just an address. Home is our soul. Boll & Branch, organic sheets, bath, and home. Right now, try for 30 nights risk-free and get free shipping at bollandbranch.com.
No matter what happens, I got you. We're gonna take him down the right way. We're like an official duo. Like Starsky and Hutch.
Stick together and we're gonna get it done.
Gangs and narcotics, robbery, homicide. Like it's the end of days.
People are in danger. We're gonna do this thing together.
No more games. This ends now. Let's go.
You know you could get yourself killed. You do what you gotta do.
You blew up the port of L.A.
One vote in the van.
LA's Finest premieres September 21st on Fox.
Your father.
He had 3 children outside this marriage.
They're trying to erase us.
You're really playing with fire.
I haven't even lit the match.
Filthy Rich, September 21st on Fox.
is our business. We started 20 years ago with a mission to serve America's small businesses, and that mission is even more critical in these uncertain times. Whatever your situation, help is here, and we've updated our product to support you in taking advantage of the economic relief offer from the CARES Act and the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Sure Payroll is standing by you to get you set up with 1 month free payroll. Call 844-SURE-PAYROLL or visit surepayroll.com. Let's get through this together.
The RNC is on Fox News Channel. As the party comes together to support President Trump, our experts break down every critical moment. Brett and Martha anchor special coverage of the Republican National Convention.
Democracy 2020.
It's in your hands.
Night 3 of the Republican National Convention kicks off about 3 minutes from now. Big focus has been restoring law and order to America's cities. CNN has changed its tune abruptly. CNN has decided that the rioting in Kenosha needs to stop because it might be hurting Joe Biden's chances of winning. Why?
He's got to come out and tell people that he is going to deal with the issue of police reform in this country, and that what's happening now is happening under Donald Trump's watch. The rioting has to stop. Chris, as you know and I know, it's showing up in the polling. It's showing up in focus groups. It is the only thing right now that is sticking.
It's showing up in the focus groups, quote, therefore it matters. Victor Davis Hanson is a senior fellow at the Hoover Institute. Happy to have him on tonight. Professor, have you ever heard anything more cynical than that? We need to stop killing people because it's showing up in the focus groups.
Very rarely. I think they thought Joe Biden was going to run out the clock. He had an 8 or 9 point lead in the polls. He was going to be in the basement. Everybody was told to allow things to continue as they were, and Donald Trump owned them as the incumbent president. And then they made a really devil's bargain with the Sanders people. These are the shock troops in the street of Bernie Sanders. And they were basically saying to Biden, we'll provide the anarchy and the chaos. You can then accept our agenda after the election. When you win, we get our agenda through with you, and then you can promise the country the violence ends, and it probably would. And so Joe Biden is a prisoner of these people. I'm not sure he could renege on the bargain if he wanted to. And finally, if you're in a basement and you're not looking at America, your news comes from ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, PBS, NPR, Washington Post, and you're not seeing where the country is. The country's going one way, and the media is saying George Floyd, defund the police, going the other, and Biden is in complete echo chamber. It's sort of like Hillary thinking she's going to get a landmark landslide mandate by going into Georgia and Arizona on the eve of the election and blowing the election and having her blue wall crumble. He doesn't have the information because he's isolated. And I think now the polls are finally seeping into these people. And he said, oh my God, the country is sick of this stuff, and the polls are going, and Trump's creeping up in these Ogby poll or these other focus groups, and we got to do something quick. But it's not based on principle. They mortgaged their souls a long time ago to create this chaos, and they said to America, we'll stop it if you elect us.
Yep.
And that's where we are.
Unbelievable. Nicely put. Professor, thank you for that. We're going to take you now to night 3 of the Republican National Convention. Opens right now.
Long before the shots fired at Concord were men and women of remarkable character and fortitude. An extraordinary spirit fueled the dreams they held. That spirit lived on to win liberty in the Revolution. It emboldened the Underground Railroads. It strengthened the brave souls at Normandy. It endured with those who gallantly fought the spread of communism. And on 9/11, that same spirit was found in the men and women storming the gates of death to save precious lives. The spirit of heroism thrives in the presence of tyranny, disaster. It is stronger than any virus. Yet there are those who condemn our heroes, seek to erase history and deconstruct the American ideal, remake America into something it was never intended to be. But the spirit of heroism stands in the breach. It lives in the heart, it breathes in the soul, and is woven into the courageous fabric of Americans like you. It preserves liberty. It strengthens families. It empowers the extraordinary. The spirit of heroism inspires us to act when others are in need, to do the right thing. Join us tonight. Dream heroic dreams. Celebrate America, land of the free, home of the brave.
What's known in the TV business as a cold open, produced by the Republican National Convention. The Republicans are often mocked for their estrangement from Hollywood. People make fun of their low production values, but there was nothing shoddy about the video you just saw. It was very nicely done. The convention is opened every night this week with a prayer. Tonight, the man giving the invocation will be Rabbi Spiro, who will be taking the podium right now.
Lord, Almighty God, we come before you this evening and pray for your divine protection over our brothers and sisters in the path of storms along our Gulf Coast. You are our rock and our shelter in the midst of the storms of life. You are the God who commands the winds and the waves, and we pray that you will provide refuge to our people. O Lord, you have granted us certain natural rights, such as the right to speak freely, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, as well as religious freedom, the right to assemble, and the right to self-defense. Only in America have these God-given rights so flourished and been categorized as belonging to the people, embodying the very essence of our government. Father, we pray that this outlook and mindset, this form of government continues, as has been our history, especially now when, to our horror, it is being challenged. And so we pray that God gives strength and health to our president, who has splendidly demonstrated daily his determination to defend and maintain the God-given rights of our citizens, as enshrined in our Constitution and in our Declaration, eloquently passed down through our Judeo-Christian tradition. President Trump has stood up fearlessly against those who are corrupting the term social justice so as to deny Americans their birthright and these divine gifts. May God protect him. May God bless all those in government and among our citizens who seek to honor, defend, and preserve our heritage. This land was founded in an epic and providential moment. Like the revelation at Sinai, it was the moment when the vision of God rendezvoused with the soaring and noble plans of appointed men. Yet, every so often, apace various generations, we are compelled to resurrect and give rebirth to our providential beginning, to renew our present days with the exuberance of those founding days. Perhaps that is what is meant when we say, "Make America Great Again." We pledge to vigilantly protect and tend the garden so as to imbibe its blessed fruits. May God continue to make America great, and may we continue to be his people, one nation, under God. And let us say, Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pledge led by Afghan war veteran Joseph Deslores. Pardon the mispronunciation if I did it. Approaching the podium now is the governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem.
Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota. I'm here tonight because I believe America is an exceptional nation, founded on three principles: equality, freedom, and opportunity. But today, our founding principles are under attack. This year, the choice for Americans is between a man who values these ideals and all that can be built because of them, and a man who isn't guided by these ideals. And coincidentally, has built nothing. Remember, America's battle for independence and fight for self-governance was something that had never been done before. Men of great intellect and wisdom, like James Madison, the father of our Constitution, hoped our constitutional republic would last for ages, mitigate the problems that would naturally arise from political factions, and prevent tyranny. Madison also authored much of the Bill of Rights because he understood the natural tendency of government to increasingly encroach on the people's consent, and thus our freedom. He urged his colleagues to adopt these amendments to enshrine in our Constitution the ideals laid out in the Declaration of Independence, that all power comes from the people, that the government is created and ought to be exercised for the benefit of the people. Our Constitution guarantees the right to speak, to assemble, and to worship, the right to arm ourselves as a counterbalance to a standing army, and the right to a fair and equitable criminal justice system. We must fight to protect these foundational rights from government interference and indifference. America is unique in the world. Government's power at all levels is limited to the confines of our Constitution, which protects our God-given liberties and civil rights. We are not and will not be the subjects of an elite class of so-called experts. We, the people, are the government. Now, at times, our country has struggled to live up to our founding principles. Another great American, Abraham Lincoln, knew that struggle better than anybody. When he was just 28 years old, Honest Abe saw wild and furious passions worse than savage mobs, he said, taking the place of reasoned judgment. He was alarmed by the increasing disregard for the rule of law throughout the country. He was concerned